Hello and welcome to our regular live show. We're excited to see all of you thought leaders, and today we're going to be talking about stories. As we know, LinkedIn just rolled out their stories feature. And what do we want to do with the stories feature? Do we like it? Do we not like it? I'm hearing lots of feedback, so I'm excited to see what you all think of LinkedIn stories. We're going to start by going through just a little bit about what it is and what it looks like. And then we'll do some how-tos through a video. I had to take a video of my phone doing stories because you can only do stories on your phone. So I've seen a few people saying I don't have stories yet, and that may be true if you're in Europe, although most of the US does have it, US and Canada. It may be a few other things that are going on. So if you don't think you have stories, we'll talk about how to check on that as we go through the day today. So say hi, tell me what you want to know about stories, tell me what you're seeing with stories, and we're going to look at a few articles about it so you know where to get some resources, and then we'll go through kind of the how-to here as well. So stories, why stories? So it's interesting when you look at the data. So back in February, I went to the Social Media Marketing World Convention in San Diego. So glad I got out of town before the lockdown happened because I would be going a little bit crazy. The vacation was nice, but the information was excellent. And they were sharing data around how stories are so effective. People like stories, they get engaged in stories, they just watch, the story reel just keeps playing. And that's one of the things that happens on YouTube. Right when somebody starts watching, they just keep watching, and that's kind of the power of stories. Instagram has some really powerful stories for business development, powerful story tools. LinkedIn does not have all of those tools yet, so we'll look at the one tool that it seems you do have on LinkedIn now and how some of our colleagues are using it well and really engaging that story feature. So Andy Foote, who's, if you're not following him on LinkedIn, I'd recommend it. Andy Foote, Foote. He did a poll on stories, and it doesn't seem like people are really into it yet. They're not caring. Most people are not watching, and that's okay. That doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want to start watching, and that maybe you want to start even doing this, because early adopters get some perks. I got invited to a LinkedIn group, kind of the stories features rollout, be in the insider information Facebook group, probably because I posted a story the first day it was available. And so I'll get some additional information, be able to have that information to share with you all, which of course is great. But if you are involved in some of the early rollout, there may be opportunities for this to help your clients. And we'll look at how and why, and maybe not. I'd love your feedback and what you're seeing. So let's look at some of the resources around this, just so that you have some resources to go back to at the end. So this article from Social Media Today, I like them. They've got good information. It's organized well. A lot of the other articles that I'm reading aren't so well organized. This one goes through all of the new updates to LinkedIn, so it's a great thing to go and read through, just so you know what the newest and latest and greatest is on LinkedIn. I'm going to drop this in the comments. If you're out there watching, please say hello. Tell me who you are. Love to see you. I put this link here in the comments for this site. I'll take that comment down because it's kind of covering everything up. So this article, again, Social Media Today article, just goes through some of the information about what's new on LinkedIn. So stories had rolled out in Australia almost a year ago, and they had been supposed to come out in the US early this year, February, March. Of course, we understand why that didn't happen. So they talk about their new look, and then it talks about stories and the rollout of stories. And we're going to go through that live here, but there's some information that you can look at there. And then it talks about the changes in search, which I haven't played around with yet. Maybe we'll do that in the future. If you're in our digital branding community, we'll do that at our third Thursday 30s. And then also it talks a little bit about your messaging. I think it's funny. You can now bulk delete your messages. How effective is that? I wish that they would actually make some folders so you could organize your messages in LinkedIn, but it doesn't seem like that's a thing. You can adjust a message, so you can kind of take back and edit a message if you want to, which is interesting. And then some of the other features that you can see there. But today we're going to be focused on stories. So Instagram's been doing stories for a long time, right? Instagram's kind of the pro at stories. So when we go and we think about how can we find some best practices around stories, best place to do that is going to be looking at some articles about Instagram and focused on Instagram business stories, because of course LinkedIn is a business platform, so different things are going to work on LinkedIn than we're working on Instagram. But these conversations around business stories on Instagram are probably the closest that we're going to get. So here's an article. I'm not going to go through it too deeply, but just an article here on Instagram stories for business and what works there so that you can look that up. Hey, Rhonda. Hey, James. Oh, that's Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Rhonda. Good to see you. Hi, Martin. Spinning a yarn is an opportunity. Yes, stories, definitely. Glad to see you here. Feel free to type in your name in the chat since it's not showing up, but glad to see all of you. So this article that I put up here is just going through the Instagram stories. It's going to speak to a few features that we don't have in LinkedIn yet, but they might be coming. So we think about how could we use these features later when they come. The poll feature, there's some really good things that LinkedIn has put in that make Instagram stories for business really powerful. I haven't started to use them yet. It was on my list was to start experimenting there before LinkedIn rolled out their stories. But I guess now we're just going to do it all at once, which, hey, it's what we've got. So this article goes through some of those best practices. It talks about, here's the table of contents, why stories are a powerful tool, how to boost your engagement, how to drive sales, and then get more views, and then kind of how to plan and schedule. Obviously, not all of those things are going to work in LinkedIn, but if you are going to use stories in LinkedIn, it'd be a good idea to think about that plan and how you want to use them and how you can put all of that together as you move forward. So when you look at the LinkedIn browser, you're probably saying, Marie, I don't have stories yet. Well, here's the challenge with stories. Just like Instagram, they only show up on mobile. They do not show up on your desktop version of LinkedIn. Now, Facebook has figured out how to get stories on both versions of their platform. So they have the stories on their desktop as well as on their mobile app, and it will be interesting to see where LinkedIn goes with that. But for now, it's just on your mobile, and it's only on your mobile if you've updated your app. So go into your app settings and make sure your LinkedIn version is updated, because you may not be seeing stories because you don't have the app yet. But there's one thing that I want to show you before we go off of this feed. So hello, Jackie. Hi, Linda. It's good to see you, and Rabbi and Kathy and Lorraine. Yes. So let me know your comments about stories. What have you seen that's working? Have you not watched them yet? I'd love to hear what you're seeing in terms of LinkedIn stories. I'm going to go to the LinkedIn browser here for just a second, because this is just one new thing we want to be aware of over here in our browser. You'll see, like, Marie, there's no stories here, right? Because on your desktop, it's not there. But in our settings under privacy, we have the opportunity to change the visibility of our stories. So over here under visibility, we can adjust this and our story viewing options. So this is who has viewed my story. I get to see who's viewed my story, and I can actually message them right when they've viewed my stories. And this is the power of stories for business, because in the real world in LinkedIn, right, you can only see if someone likes your post. You can't see if they just viewed it. You have 100 views and 4 likes, and you can only see who liked it. With stories, you can see who viewed it and you can message them. I didn't take that in my video, so I'm not sure we'll be able to see that in this video, but we'll at least be able to see how it looks. So you can change your visibility to show the basic LinkedIn choices here, right? You can show who you are. You can say that you're anonymous. You can just show your title. I don't know if I change this, if people would be able to message me still or not. It just says viewing. It doesn't say whether or not they can message me. We'll go to communications real quick and see if it's there. But this just is a place where you can change your visibility. Important thing is that it's defaulted to show their picture. So until people figure out to change this, you will be able to see who is looking at your stories if you do a story. So in the LinkedIn settings, you can change that. Let's go into communications real quick and just see if we can. I'm an open messenger, so people might be able to open message me. It doesn't say anything about stories in here. So it would be interesting to see if I can message people who are anonymous or not. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody anonymous looking at my story yet, because again, the default is to show the person. So nobody's changed that yet. I can still see all the people who are viewing my stories. So Linda, you're just learning about stories today. Yay. And then, okay, so I'm going to show you a video of how stories look from my phone, because that's where we can see stories on our phone. And unfortunately, I can't share my phone live. So I'm just going to show you this little video, and we'll go through some of these stories and how they are appearing. So here is my, oh, let me see if I can get it back. Okay, we'll stop and start again. All right, so here's my little video. There we go. Okay. So you have to go into the app. So you'll see the app here, and I click on the app, and then boom, looks completely different, right? You've got the stories up at the top, and I'm going to click first on my story and just show you what I've been up to. You have to update your app. So everybody, what I've seen, everybody in the US has this. You just have to make sure you go into your settings and update your app first. And then this is just a story that I posted about, we were going to be live here. I posted some questions because, again, at the very bottom, there's a place for people to message you. You can't really see that in this video, but at the very bottom, there's a place for people to message you. And you could see that you can see the viewers of your story. Oh, here on Melanie's story, you can see the place to message her. And then here's Madeline. This is her story. She's just going through a little bit of it. Story tip, you can click on the right and it moves it to the next section. So this is Sarah's story, and I'm going to click on the right of the story to move to the next segment. And I just kind of keep doing that. You can see she's got 5 segments to her story. A story is 60 seconds long, and so she's got 5 20 or 5 10-second segments in this story. And then it moves on to the next story. And this is why stories are kind of addicting, because they just automatically keep moving to the next story. And then I can go back, and if I wanted to post another story, you can click on the little story icon, and then you use the blue button at the bottom to add more to your story. And you can add little clips to your story throughout the day. It's not like you have to go on and just put it all up at once. I have been going up and putting them all up at once after my kids go to bed. And I've been using this app called InShot. So InShot lets me come in and edit a story. I've been creating the visuals in Canva. And then when you get into InShot, you can create a new video. And even though I'm just using pictures, I'm using the video feature because I can add pictures to that and add text. And then kind of like in PowerPoint, where you have the transitions, where you can have the text come in and out and do things so that it looks more like a video. And that's the simpleness of stories. Now people are doing like short snippets of video. People are doing, pictures with words, like Melanie's was a question, just a simple question. It runs for 15 seconds and then it's gone. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can do stories. And if you're new to stories, I would recommend just start watching other people's stories and thinking about, does that work for my audience? You kind of want to think, do I like that or not? But you're really thinking about, how would that work for my audience? What could I do that would start to create stories for my business? As early adopters, getting a lot of visibility because there's not very many people doing it yet. So as you do some stories, you'll get some more visibility and you have people message you. So I've had people message me and say, oh, nice story. Or I'll see that they've viewed my story and I'll send them a message, say, thank you for viewing my story. I'm going through and looking for my potential customers, right? The people that I want to connect with. I'm not just messaging everybody who's viewed my story, just really going through and looking for that. The door is wide open. So Murray's asking, what are best practices for job seekers and careerists? Is really wide open. What could that look like? They could do a short series of videos about their expertise. It's got to be a story, right? Got to be engaging. So they could do a 60-second thing every day about something around their expertise. Since it's so short, it's actually quite easy. So you could say, this week I'm going to focus on leadership skills, and I've got these 5 things in leadership that are really important to me. So every day I'm going to do 15 to 30 seconds on why that leadership aspect is so important to me. It's got to be connected to them and fit with their worldview and their industry, and be interesting and be that story type of format, but still connected to showing their expertise. So this could be the new video resume, right? We know that a video resume where I just sit there and regurgitate my resume doesn't work. It has to be a story. It has to be engaging. So if I was in an industry, I could think about, what have I been doing? What is my expertise? Maybe I could talk about a presentation that I've been giving, or a paper that I've been working on, or the customer problem that I've been working on. If I can strip out the customer details, I think there's a lot of opportunity for story, just to think about what connects to my audience, what would they want to hear that might be interesting and that they might be listening to, and thinking about that. So if they've got a presentation that they did a year ago, how could you break that up into 30-second snippets? They'd probably have a whole month or 2 months worth of content from one 45-minute presentation that they did last year. If it's industry specific and we can get out some of the customer or information that they shouldn't share, confidential information, there'd be endless content there. In fact, I've been thinking about doing a thread that uses the content that we've been creating, right, for our programs and our classes, and it's that little drip every day that makes it really easy to spread out your content and things you've already done and not have to create a whole bunch more. And you saw in some of the examples, Madeline's on video, Sarah's on video, and Melanie was using a picture and then the words on the page. Having some words on the page is really important because a lot of people are going to watch it with the sound off. And that makes it easy. If you do have someone that doesn't want to do video, they could bring up images and pictures and just put some words on it and have that kind of storyboard feel without even having to talk. So I think the options and opportunities are kind of limitless, Murray. It's just figuring out what works for our client and how might they repurpose something that they've already done so that they don't have to start over or don't have to create a whole bunch of new content. And of course, I would think about that for you as well. And for me, how can we use things that we've already done? So Madeline's using clips from some of her YouTube videos, right? You clip it to the right size, put some words over it. You only need a 30-second clip from, a 5-minute YouTube video that she's doing, and boom, you'll have a story that you can use on LinkedIn. I am seeing a lot of people talk about the importance of keeping them professional, that it's not the same as something you'd put on Facebook or Instagram. So it's going to be related to those professional threads, but it still is personal, right? There's something about it that connects, which obviously I haven't done yet in my stories. If you've seen any of mine, they've been a little bit more on that kind of upcoming event, or join my podcast, join the live session, and that type of story is not going to get much traction because it's salesy, right? So I'm going to start doing some that share tips, not just promotions. Hey, Melanie, I shared your story. I don't know if you were on yet, but thank you for not knowing that you were going to be an example, but you are doing great. And again, if you're wondering as a professional, what can you do? Follow Melanie, see what she's doing. Great stories already. Showed Shara Johnston as well, doing stories already that you can watch and see what they're doing and figure out what's going to work for you. And then take that down to the next step and figure out what might work for your clients, because there's definitely opportunity there for them to get in front of people, because not that many people are doing this right now. You don't need a whole bunch of tools. You could just use Canva. You can just use your computer and or your phone and record yourself. Stories are supposed to be a little bit more raw, so it doesn't have to be that produced feel. If you want to use pictures and visuals instead, you can do that too. There's really a lot of different options, and watching what people are doing will give you that opportunity. So first thing, go into your apps and update your LinkedIn app. Make sure you've got the latest version, because if you're in the US or Canada, you do most likely have stories. You maybe just haven't updated your app yet. Then you've got it, it's got to be on mobile. So update that app, go into the mobile version, and start watching stories to see what people are doing so that you can start getting some ideas and jump on in. Gina Riley is another one who's doing some stories, has done some stories, so you can check out those. If there's anyone else that people are seeing that are doing stories, feel free to share them there in the chat. I was going to share, just when I popped into my LinkedIn earlier, Sarah Johnston had written a post about stories, and it was good. So I thought I might share that with you, just for the different types of stories that you can use. Obviously, it's not all encompassing, but thinking about all the different ways that you can post a story. It's always good to mix and match and do the things that work for you at that time. So let me share this with you here. Thank you, Sarah, for posting about this today. So I'm going to use you as an example here. So stories, some people are still seeing them as meh. Check out my latest article or podcast. There's nothing wrong with that. You just want to sprinkle it in with maybe some other things that are more storied field. So Sarah lists some other people that are doing stories, showing it's always about giving value, right? So how can you add value through your story? If you're adding value through an article, share it. If you're adding value through some tips, it's like a little slide share almost, right? LinkedIn got rid of SlideShare, and stories are in some ways going to replace that. How can you create this really short slide share that's going to share some tips that are valuable to your audience? And then when you get up the gumption, hop on video and do those on video as well, because that's going to help you connect to your audience. And always thinking about that call to action, because at the bottom there is that send a message. So what should people send you a message about when they're watching your story? What do you want them to be thinking about or asking you about or sending you a message? The easier it is for them to send you a message, the more likely they'll do it, right? If they have to ask you a question or something, it probably won't do it as well as if they can do a 1 or 2 word answer to your question. Then you're more likely to get those responses. And Elizabeth says, breaking up her webinar and sharing the parts. Yep, exactly. So then you've got 4 or 5 weeks worth of content, and you can make it really easy to connect. And if you're targeting the younger audience, now you can use these stories on LinkedIn and Facebook, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and you don't have to change it that much. You might change it a little bit. The businessy type stories aren't going to play quite as well on Instagram. You might throw in an inspirational message into the Instagram version or something. But as you're creating them, repurpose that content, because it will get you the opportunity to connect. And your audiences probably aren't the same on both of those platforms. So it'll just give you some options to do that. Yeah, LinkedIn sold SlideShare. Oh, Deb, I'm not going to remember who they sold it to, but this was a month or 3, a month or 5, who knows? Where does time go? They sold SlideShare to somebody else. I'm not going to remember who they sold it to, but they sold SlideShare maybe even 5 or 6 months ago. So yeah, that's no longer their platform. It still exists, but it's no longer integrated with LinkedIn. Yeah, thank you, Sarah. If she watches this now or later, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Melanie, for being up there so that we could share your examples. And as you start to do stories, let me know. It's kind of a small bar there that you see the stories. So send me a message, tell me that you're doing stories, and I'll see if I can find you. And love to see what you all are doing. Love to see what your clients start doing. And of course, we have our Digital Brand Strategist class coming up Today is the last day to register because it starts Thursday, and we love to get our community together and talk about these types of trends. And you can bet that at our third Thursday 30 this month, for those of you who are in that community, we'll be talking more about stories and more about some of the other updates to LinkedIn. Back here on this live, of course, we'll be here again next week. Next week, super exciting. We're going to be announcing the topics for our 2020 Career Jam, a lengthened, more in-depth event the week of November 16th through the 20th. So tune in next week to see the announcement of those trends, and look forward to seeing all of you career thought leaders next week.